All right, folks. High ground rituals. High ground rituals. The idea of a high ground, I decided to go with that because there's a pretty cool, I think, image that that I use to sort of cue or illustrate, the concept. But everybody can wrap their head around, in conflict. It's always get to the high ground. There's an inherent benefit to being in the high ground. Recently, my kids, weird homeschool kids that they are, became obsessed with tsunami videos. Like the old, like the on the street footage. Well, that's usually short footage. The footage usually from a high ground point about the water coming in and Japan a decade ago and whatnot. So there is this perennial value that we understand in a bunch of different applications of being in the high ground. So the reason I decided to label this high ground rituals is because we want to do things on a regular basis that put us in a position inherently, by default, that is beyond what would otherwise require some degree of effort or some degree of change or growth in order to become functional, right? So we all know, all the guys here are men. There's something that we could pick up that maybe our wives are not strong enough to pick up, right? I mean, hopefully you're stronger than your wife. Just throwing it out there. Little free nugget for everybody. But let's say, if you guys are fucking up so badly that that's not the case, at least your young children, you're stronger than them. You know that your baseline level of strength could have you do something that would require a whole bunch of planning for somebody who doesn't have that level of strength. Years ago, I worked at a camp for physically disabled children, right? And I don't know if that's the latest PC word. It was the New York Service for the Handicapped. That was the name of the company that made the camp. And one of the best experiences of my life. But these kids were kids who, spina bifida, cerebral palsy, different forms of physical issues. And one of the things you saw, like just face value every day, was things that we took for granted were these overwhelming, sometimes insurmountable challenges for them because of their physical deficiencies, right? So just another application of the concept where we could observe it, in regular life. So this idea of maintaining rituals that allow us to maintain the high ground is something that I wanted to share. Now, it doesn't need to be conflict, right? If we have a baseline level of a fitness need, it's fitness that we want to make sure that we're taking care of. If it's strength, it's strength. If it's clarity, purpose. If it is the relationships around us, it's really a testament to let's make sure we're building ourselves up in a way that we don't have to change who we are to handle the majority of things that we're going to encounter during our regular life, right? So there is a great quote, Aristotle, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit, right? And embedded in that idea is this accountability to make sure that we understand what we're doing repeatedly, because that's who we are, right? We're in the constant process of becoming who we are. And when we look at what our daily rituals are, there's something to be said for, exactly how are we building the person we claim to want to be, and how does that stack up against what we're going to have to do, right? I remember when I moved up here, a good buddy of mine told me, because I'm living up in the mountains of PA now. He said, "I'm just letting you know now, you're from the city. Anytime after 5, 6 o'clock, you want something to eat, you better know how to cook." And I laughed at the time until the first time I was here, and it was like 9, 10 o'clock, and I wanted to go out for a slice of pizza or something, or just grab a bite from the diner, and things closed hours ago, right? So I had this protocol that wasn't matching up to my circumstances, right? So you make a couple of changes and you adjust. But the thing is, it's like, first time, shame on you, second time, shame on me. That whole concept is exactly how many things are you facing in your life that you are still not squaring away, that you still have to go out of your normal, daily hustle and bustle in order to accommodate. And it's just a functional thing, the people who I always see, these little, inconsistencies, they have to park right next to the front door of the gym. They can't park too far away unless they have to walk 100 yards, but then they get on the treadmill and they walk for an hour. They jog for an hour. And it's like, that doesn't make any sense. How does that make sense to them? And it's one of those things where I purposely I always park as far as I could possibly park. Because I'm like, I'm going to steal the opportunity to get some reps in. I have my Fitbit, I count my steps every day, which I'll be talking about later with the Pressure Ready program. But the whole thing is, what habits can I do on a regular basis to build myself up? So the image that I make for this is the mountain model, right? So we're going to look at a ground, and we're going to use a building to represent, an individual's capability, right? And you will excuse, the windows will start transforming shape as I go up. That's just something that happens. I don't have patience. And most people, what they do is they build themselves to the point where they start adding floors, and they could become more capable, they could become, specialized and powerful and in certain ways. And that is better than somebody who stays at ground level. What I'm advocating for is allowing the building that's occurring to rest on a foundation that by default puts you at a level that other people would have to work in order to get to. So I'm going to use the example just because it's a simple example, an easily understood example. The kids that I was referring to earlier, the ones that are physical, deficiencies. They're going to have to do a whole bunch of stuff in order to get to the point where I don't have to do anything extra, right? It's like, hey, you're a kid who, let's just say happens to be in a wheelchair, right? You ask him to put something up on a shelf. Well, that's a whole project for him, right? For me, it's going to be a project past a certain point, right? But I know that by default, I'm not going to have to do anything extra in order to accommodate this, because my baseline of capability in that particular thing happens to be functional. So what I'm advocating for with this is to collect our rituals in a way, daily, by the way, daily. The idea of a week, the idea of a month, all these are abstractions. The most you could argue for in terms of some sort of cyclical relationship with time is the day, or maybe the seasons, or maybe the life of the earth, like eventually it'll go boom or it'll go bye-bye. But when we're talking about the concept of a week, an abstraction, our ability to process what that time means is an abstraction. And we have these relationships with abstraction to sort of seep their way into what we think we're supposed to be doing, or how we think we're supposed to categorize our lives, and they're just not functional. I'm an advocate for, for lack of a better term, just dumbing it down, right? And what I mean by that is square away your day, your daily rituals. Don't tell me what your plans are if you can't even tell me what you're going to do today, right? So another bit of old wisdom. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. They call it an ancient Chinese proverb, right? That's what Google calls it. But I'm like, they went by miles? Miles, right? Made in China, miles? But so I'll just say an old saying, unknown, squiggly unknown, right? But we've all heard it in different forms. But the idea of it is this sort of, incremental approach to a much larger mission. And, old wisdom never becomes obsolete. It becomes familiar. And sometimes the familiar becomes obsolete to the individual because he starts taking it for granted. If you hear a bit of old wisdom, and because you've heard it to the point where it becomes that sort of background white noise, what you're doing is you're telling your environment, certainly the people in that environment, that they need to sort of make it shiny, and they need to have it grab your attention in order for you to be able to pay attention to it, or install it into your life and the way that you approach your life. By default, we should have a relationship with these things where we are constantly assessing and making ourselves accountable for our relationship with what we know to be true, what we know to be wisdom. Wisdom, I consider, my definition for wisdom, terms and the way we define them is important. I call wisdom knowledge vetted in reality. Knowledge vetted in reality, right? A lot of things look good on paper, right? That's why you have so many people that politically go all these different directions. Because, not getting into anything political, but you have a basic, approach these days that is completely devoid from any connection to reality. So I like wisdom over knowledge, because the abstract is a subset of knowledge, but abstraction is not a subset of wisdom. Wisdom is vetted in reality. Right? So we always want to heed wisdom. It never becomes obsolete. One of the sayings that I have in my school, my academy, I've been using this, a bunch of my students here, I've heard it a million times. Every bad rep makes you better at being bad. Every bad rep makes you better at being bad. To define bad really quickly, again, terms being what they are, bad is anything that moves the individual, the identity, the tribe against its mission. Getting in the way, going the wrong way. Right? They have those traffic signs, wrong way. Things are bad, or all the things that are on the roads that it says wrong way. Right? So every bad rep makes you better at being bad. Somebody tells me, if somebody were to tell me, I work out 3 times a week. Well, it's usually a little math, symbolism. What you just told me equals you don't work out 4 times a week. No, but I work out 3 times a week. Well, there's 7 days in a week, so you don't work out 4 times a week. The idea of 3 times a week, again, it's a frequency based on an abstraction. We were just talking about chores earlier, right? And some days, I don't want to throw my wife under the bus, but here she goes. Kids don't have to do chores today. Oh yeah? Kids don't have to do chores today. Yeah, let's just let them relax. They need a day of rest. So the garbage is going to throw out itself. So the dog is going to walk himself. So, like all the things that need to get done. So the problem is in society today, we're so strong, so much of a surplus of resources, that everybody gets to sort of play life. They don't have to actually live. They can just play life. And a lot of times with kids and chores, what you get are chores that are just made up. I want you to make your bed. I want you to brush your hair. I want you to study your vocabulary. Yeah, all things that if they didn't do them, nobody would know a fucking thing about it. So a little side note, if you want to give your kid chores, give them things that if they don't do them, the system of the house, the function of the house gets fucked up. When I go to open, I got one of those cool little sliding garbage things, you guys got them too. Everyone here works for a living. Open it up, it's full of garbage. It's my oldest, Hayden's, his job to throw out the garbage. And he's pretty good. But then he had to evolve. He had to find out the function of it. So one day, it's there. And I don't curse at my children, but when I tell stories about talking to my children, I usually curse, right? I curse at my children. So I open the garbage, going to clean, and it's full. I got a bunch of fucking egg shells and stuff, like whatever I'm throwing in the garbage. Hide it. Get in here. Whose job is it to throw out the garbage? he thinks he's slick. He's smart, but he's not slick yet. Certainly not any way that I'm going to give him credit for yet. He goes, well, I threw it out this morning. Which he did. So to him, it's like, it's done. You threw it out this morning? Sure, yeah. All right. And I threw the garbage everywhere, so he'd have to clean it the next morning. So it just fell all into like the little thing and everything. So I was like, all right. And you could see his head like processing. What it's like, garbage isn't going to throw out itself. It's like, what are you kids running a fucking union in there? You're not telling me about once a day? Like, I'm going to break this union up real quick. You know, we got shit to do. You know, so this idea of meeting function and how we act, like the person, I work out 3 days a week. All right, what are your goals? What are your fitness goals? Well, I want to get in shape. Are you in shape? No, so it's not working. Are you closer to being in shape than you were before? Well, no, it's not working. But I'm comfortable with my body. Take your shirt off. Well, I mean, you ain't comfortable with your fucking body. Get out of here. I used to be 300 pounds, motherfucker. Like, I don't talk about shit I don't know about. All right? One of the worst things that got in my way when I was that heavy was that I was so strong. Because then it became, what do you bench? What do you squat? Get out of here. You know, but it wasn't functional, right? First time I had to train with my kids. And I'm realizing that I can't even move around. It's like, who the fuck is supposed to care about your squat again? Like, what does that matter? So when we look at our rituals, it's like, what are we doing? How much of what we're doing is designed to make us feel better and completely devoid of any connection to actual function? One of the ironies, of course, being when you worry about function, you wind up building a life where you feel better, right? Time scale zones, right? So this mountain model, you know, your rituals, you want to be a mountain, right? It's a good walk away phrase to remember. Be a mountain. You know, talk about tsunamis. These people have to run in this house. Every day of the week, these guys talk about how much bigger their house is than these people's house. Then the tsunami hits. And all these people do is run up here. Not so fancy, right? High ground rituals. This is what we do. Therefore, this is who we are without making any modifications. We could change this, put it up. We could have seasonal houses. We have a summer house when it's summertime. Winter house when it's wintertime. Right? But we're always functional. These people have to build an entire structure whenever their ecosystem changes. Right? Because they're always one event away from dysfunction. Whatever our problems are, they'd have to get this high before we got to change something. I once heard a phrase, you know, because everybody has this thing about money. Money's the root of all evil. And I'm not going to get into all that nonsense, but one of the things I heard, one of the cool phrases, I think it was, I don't know if it was John Calton that said it. It might not be. It might be Jim Rohn. It might be John Calton. Whoever said it. Older guy, old school business dude. And he said, having money solves every problem that not having money created. So I remember hearing that for the first time. I was like, that's fair. Having money solves every problem that not having money created. Okay. So here's the thing. To use the money, you know, the relationship with money as an example to illustrate this point. I remember at some point, was it you, Ann? I told you should always have cash in your pocket?
Yeah.
How much money did I tell you to have?
200.
I told a lot of you. Out of respect. Most people I'd start off with 50. But I'm like, and I've had this conversation with many people. I remember it might have been with you. But the whole thing is, it's like, what if you need to get something? What if you have something? What if, like, whatever, we're from the Bronx. Maybe somebody wants to tell us to sell us TV, right? You need a TV, right? It's a brand new TV on a box. Like, listen, you know, $50, and you ain't got no cash. Do you take PayPal? Do you take debit cards? Like, motherfucker has a TV in his trunk. He doesn't take any of that stuff. There's an idea that if we have money, we don't need to change anything up to a certain point. Up until where we want or need something that is more money than we have. But to the guy that's broke, you ask them, you know, hey, meet me over here. It's like, hey, I don't have gas money. It's like, you don't have gas money? Don't you have a car? Isn't the car more expensive than the gas? You was like, fuck, I'm gonna go with the car? Like, how does that work out? You know, you can save up, one day I'm gonna have gas. You know, like, but there is a certain point where people are dysfunctional because they don't have high ground rituals. They don't have a relationship with their daily collection of rituals that keeps them at a default that surpasses all of the common bits of conflicts, obstacles, and whatnot that they face on a regular basis. You know, it's the guy who lives check to check. You know, I live check to check. You talk to him a year later. I live check to check. You still live check to check. Like, just what happens if you like miss one check? You know, like this, it's like math. It's at some point you're now negative forever. Like, if that happened, what would you do? Well, I'd have to do that now. It's like if equilibrium is I have my bills, I have my income. I have my bills, I have my income. Well, what happens if you don't have your income? The bills show up. Now you're here. What would you do? I got to do extra so I can get back here. Oh, I see. Why don't you do that now so you can be up here? You know, and like this is how you start building the rituals that bring your default to extend beyond the things that you're going to face on a regular basis. You know, I mean, listen, shit happens. Fucking cancer, accidents, tsunamis, like all these things. Like, so it's not ever about being invincible. It's not ever about being perfect. But you have people that tend to focus on what they can't do. But then when you actually take inventory of what they can do and how much of it they're actually doing, it's like we're not even ready to get to what you can't do yet. You still aren't doing everything that you can. This is America, land of the type 2 diabetic poor people. The disease you get literally by eating too much food. You can live in poverty and have type 2 diabetes in this country. That's how ass backwards we are. Why? Because we ignore the old wisdom, right? So, let me clear this for a sec. We're going to talk about time scales. And I want to introduce something called the mission ladder. And we're going to break that down. So, here, there. This is the language we're going to use to describe where we happen to be in life right now, in whatever aspect we're addressing it, and where we're trying to go. This could be, hey, I'm going to open up a business one day. This could be the 8-year-old saying he's going to be a fireman. This is going to be the guy saying I'm going to lose 20 pounds. It doesn't matter. It's a declaration of something in the future that they are not connected to at the moment. So, if we look at it as, hey, this is the ground, right? And this is, we'll just say, a ridge, right? They got to climb this rock face to get up. There's a bunch of ways to do it. Wouldn't it be nice to have a ladder? Let's get the ladder. It's like one of those skinny ninja rope ladders. You have a ladder. You have a bunch of things you understand with that ladder. Somebody walks up to this scene, right? And there's a little guy here, right? Apologize to all my artistic friends who are watching this. It's a guy here, and it's like, yeah, the guy needs to go up there. What do? It's easy. Take the fucking ladder. Climb a ladder. Something wrong with the ladder? No, the ladder's a good ladder. Then tell him to get on the ladder and climb up. And then he'll get there? Yeah, that's how it works. All right. tell you a story quickly about a guy I ran into in my old neighborhood. Some of you guys have heard this before. Ran into an old buddy of mine, one of these alliances that existed at some point because we had a significant overlap at that point in our lives. Now, not so much, but I like the guy. Positive associations. He's one of these guys that you see him and you smile like, hey, what's up? You want the best for him, but you know what it is. And he told me he's going to open a sneaker store. I said, sneaker store, that's awesome. Where at? I haven't decided yet. What kind of sneakers? Oh, just all kinds, like a regular. All right. Are you going to get them on consignment? Are you going to invest? Are you going to keep a stock? Is it going to be a brick and mortar? Is it going to be an online presence? A little bit of both? Is it going to be a one-man show? You're going to have exclusive sneakers, or you're going to have run-of-the-mill? You're also going to have boots? I started asking all these questions. I knew he did not know any of the answers to these questions. But I also knew that he would benefit from me asking them. Because it was either going to be, let me help you start thinking properly if you're going to make this happen, or, which I'm trying to remove that word from my vocabulary, is really stop wasting my fucking time with this bullshit. Because if you're telling me you're going to open up a sneaker store and you have absolutely no connection from where you are to where that is, then it's a fucking pipe dream. If there's no ladder here, right? We have this ladder, we take it away. And I tell you, this guy's got to get up there. Now we got to start getting creative. Now we got to start, he can't jump that, right? He should climb it. Yeah, but he doesn't know how to climb. He's never climbed it before. So I don't know if he could do it. Well, he should try. But there's a certain point when you climb that you might fall. Oh, he should just put an anchor every once in a while. Like, he doesn't know how to do that. He doesn't know how to do any of that. And we could talk within the confines of the metaphor, the analogy of the climbing up the rock face. But if we're applying it to the real world, it's like, not only how many people have told you about their sneaker store, but how many people have you told about your sneaker store? I'm going to, I just lost a shit ton of weight, right? So I could be arrogant about it. I told you, don't let me get in shape. Fat people got a problem. As soon as I leave their ranks,
it's over.
So, you tell me you're going to lose weight, and I ask you how you're going to do that. Oh, I'm gonna do a diet. Oh yeah, you're going to do a diet? You ever do a diet before? Yeah. So you're still fat, so obviously that's not the answer. No, but I just got to stay on, the last time I did this diet, it worked. Right up until it didn't work. Because you're fat. So clearly that's not the answer. Yeah, but I just got to stick with, clearly you got to do something different. What are you going to do different? It's like, okay, you've done something before but you're still fat. So at the tail end of where you saw the most progress to now, something happened. What are you going to do differently there? That's what I'm asking. At some point, he's telling me about a sneaker store. At some point, he's just going to start making shit up. And here's the thing. So number one, we want to have a ladder. Climb from here to there, we want a ladder. It starts off with a pole, right? It's hard to climb a pole. You can climb it. It's just hard to climb a pole. It's hard to rest on a pole when you're climbing a pole. It takes a lot of strength. So if you put that pole there and you realize, you know what, I'm not going to go all the way up there and wind up falling from right here or, I don't know. And you say, you know what, I'm going to invest. I'm going to start building a ladder. But then the ladder that you get, you build a couple of rungs. You pick it up off the floor, you lean it against the rock face, and there's your ladder. A lot of rungs early, but you can already see from the ground that you're going to run into an issue. It's a bad ladder. So then, go back down, So I got to fix that. Why? There was no rungs on the top. So then you flip the ladder around, put it back up, and you got all the rungs over here. You never get to those rungs. You never get to those rungs. Ladder might as well be on the moon. So what do you got to do? Obviously, you take it down and you put enough rungs in here. You install enough rungs that you can understand how to get from here to there. There is a rung to reach from here to there. Now, we don't know what's going to happen while you're climbing the ladder, but at least you're leaving the ground with a plan that connects you to the goal. So when somebody's telling me, you know, I'm going to open up a business. Oh yeah? What kind of business? I don't know yet. Okay, so what do you know? Besides that thing that you say out loud where people in your life go, that's awesome, and you get the dopamine hit and you get all this positive feedback, but you actually haven't fucking done anything. What do you know? How about what? Share whatever you want with all your other friends, but with me, just don't tell me about your fucking sneaker store. The rituals that we have on a regular basis are going to determine who we are becoming on a regular basis, pushed up a little in time. They say you reap what you sow. Every day we are sowing seeds of who we're going to be in the future. When we look at this ladder model, we understand that there are going to be things that we encounter in the short term. There are going to be things we encounter in the long term. And we should have rungs in place for when those things occur. So this is where the time scale zone comes into play. Now, in the time scale zone, we're going to create a relationship with the different levels of connection we have between our efforts and our reality. So if we have the now, and then we have the end, the connection between them is filled with a whole bunch of thens, right? There's a whole bunch of thens connecting now to the end. In our life, there are things that we have to address that are right next to us. There are things that we have to address that are right next to the end. Things we got to do today, in the moment, short term. Got to play the short game. We got to play the legacy game. When it's over, we need this stuff done. By the end of the day, you better have done this. That's one of those things where at the end, this is right before the end. This is legacy. These are the bigger things that when my story is over, what kind of story is going to be told? Short term is what can I see? What can I touch? What is tangible? So the scale of the short term is something that some people get bogged down with, right? We look at the changes that an individual makes as he matures. Everything, teenage years, instant gratification. Right now, want it now, get it now. This idea of hyperbolic discounting, valuing something in the future and comparing it to the value of right now. Like, we don't even have an understanding of that concept. I'll give you $1 today. I can ask my 6-year-old daughter, or $100 in a week. She'll take the dollar every time. Because the $100 in a week is a level of abstraction she has absolutely no relationship with. Why? Because she's 6. She's 6, she'll get there. But there are adults who will say, you know what? Living in the projects ain't that bad. But that new BMW they came out with is fire. It's like, no, you should probably move out of the projects before you buy a BMW. Call me crazy. It's life in this bubble right here. right now, right now, right now, right now. The idea of saving, the idea of investing, the idea of building relationships that will be fruitful down the timeline. These things are lost on people that live here. But here's the opposite problem. Before we deal with the middle, here's the opposite problem. The people that talk about these grandiose ideas of what they think life means and what they want to do, but here they are, you know, a terrible husband, terrible father, out of shape, overweight, can't even make a functional income. I don't care how much money you make, but if somebody else is paying for your shit, you're fucking up. Don't tell me about legacy and all these different things. You can't even get up every fucking day and take care of yourself. So that's the guy with rungs later on with no rungs early. He's never going to get here. These people are going to go halfway up the ladder and go, there's no way I'm touching this stuff. Might as well stay here. So now what do? What we do is, every day we have a purpose. Every day we have a function. That's the short term. Don't tell me what your goal is, and I'm looking at you. Because here's the thing. There's something to be said for people who have specialized knowledge and specialized skills, specialized capabilities, specialized resources. It's like you tell Shaquille O'Neal to play basketball. You don't tell him, hey, life's not all about basketball. It's like, it's not, but that's not a theme that he's going to illustrate his life with. Mm-hmm. You know, it's life as basketball, because he's Shaquille O'Neal. Like, he should be doing that. You know? So there's something to be said for the people who are so overlapped in one particular application of who they are that they achieve a level of mastery that it's okay to allow that to become almost thematic in their story. Shaq has basketball, right? Mike Tyson, boxing. You know, you have different writers and Tarantino. Like, I don't want to see Tarantino do anything else than make movies, because it would probably be terrible. Because he looks like somebody who's terrible being a room with. Makes great movies though. But he should do movies. I'm not going to talk about balance to somebody like that. Remember, balance is not about equitable distribution of one's efforts. It's not about equitable, development of one's skills and abilities. Balance is about having a minimum functional level of every aspect of who we are. So the guy who's making, $1 million a year, and he's 300 pounds and breathes, like he's trying to fucking fog up a fucking window all day, like, there's an imbalance there. So you don't got to have a six-pack if you're making $1 million a year. You just got to not have your entire life eventually be monopolized by this deficiency that you're allowing to exist. Right? So the balance is there. It's okay, you're making a lot of money now. Okay, you could say to that guy too, when all's said and done, people aren't going to talk about how fat you were probably. They're going to talk about, the things you did to make all that money. But what are you doing with your kids? What are you doing in terms of developing, your relationship with who you are, and your relationships with your wife and your brothers and sisters, and who are you helping in life, and what are the aspects to the experience, to the adventure, are you completely thrown by the wayside because you're all into this one thing? Why? Because you're good at it. I remember when I started jiu-jitsu, I was powerlifting, I was strong as shit, I had a wrestling background, I was a problem. Day one, I was a problem. Right up until you got me on my back. And then I was like a retarded turtle on fucking drugs. I'd sit there just yelling at the universe, kicking my little arms and legs, not knowing how to get the fuck off of me. When I wasn't on my back though, I was a problem. So what winds up happened to me in jiu-jitsu, hence the example, is my jiu-jitsu started taking a very bad development. What started happening? I started playing to make sure I was never on my back. I wasn't trying to be the best top player I could be, the best player in general I could be. There was a certain point where it was like, I don't want to try that because sometimes I get swept there. Sometimes I get tripped up there. So then I started pulling back my efforts, got my own way in terms of my development. Because that's what happens. When you're the guy that makes $1 million and you're 350 pounds, somebody brings up your weight, you bring up how much money they don't have. That's the, it's like the schoolyard answer to an adult fucking issue. Right? I tell you guys here, and everybody here is used to me, I'm always going to say the thing that nobody wants to say. I'm always going to say it. And it's never going to be an attack on you. It's never going to be personal. But I will say that I benefit from the fact that I have a life where I don't rely on other people to the extent that I'm willing to compromise who I am just to maintain that level of assistance. And the other side of that is I also have to maintain a mindset, especially with the people that I trust and care about, to be able to give me feedback and go, I hate fucking hearing that, but you're right. Thank you. And I mean thank you. It doesn't feel like thank you, but I'm grateful. Get the fuck away from me. I don't know if I can hold this in. I've had those conversations with people before too. And I have to sit there and take it because that's the other side of it. Right? So if we're talking about, to bring this full circle, when we're looking at ourselves, right, and we're doing that sort of time scale assessment inward to the individual, the self-alliance, to use some TRIBALNOMICS lingo, got to ask ourselves, well, am I deficient in one of these zones, right? So we would say that the scale, that we'd say this is the scale at large, and each one of these things are zones, right? And the main three zones is we have the now, we have the end, and then we have the then, right? And this varies, there's a lot of variety in this. But are we doing everything just to get the BMW? Are we talking about the sneaker store we're going to open one day? Or are we actually trying to build ladders from here to all the theirs? And that's what these thens represent. These are all the things that, not that necessarily we want to do, but that we feel compelled to do. It's the right thing to do. And we want to do the right thing. We want to do the thing that makes us stronger, that helps the people around us. You can't say that setting a goal to smoke crack. Like, I don't know how great smoking crack is, but I know a lot of people really like smoking crack over and over again. So must be great for them as far as they can tell. Right? So it's not about just doing the things that make you feel good, obviously. We need to anchor that to something. And when you look at everything in totality, that's where you find the way to anchor these things. In that model of climbing the rock face, well, at the end of it, you got to be safely on the top. So there's a lot of things, whatever you do, okay, it's fine. You got to be safely on the top. At the end of the story, you need to be able to have lived a story that allows you to walk away on top. We can't ignore the short term, the now. Right? That zone, that's the guy or somebody who's deficient in it, that's the guy that's overweight, has other people paying for his shit. I don't need you to make a lot of money. But don't have other people pay for your shit. Never mind the money. Other people got to pay for your shit, you are deficient. Overweight, underweight. What does that mean? Well, what do you have to do? We can't live forever. But if you're dying because of something that you didn't have to do, that takes away from the value of the timeline in its totality, you're fucking up. It's a deficiency. I'm 350 pounds. But I like being 350 pounds. No, you don't. Yes, I do. How do you know? I don't. You're right. 350 pounds, so how long are you going to last? Going to get everything done? What else do you stand for? Is you being 350 pounds congruent with what you say you stand for? Like, there's other ways to look at this. I don't have to be you in order to argue your point. You get cancer. Like, anybody here ever have cancer? You get cancer. You're going to go to a doctor and ask him, you ever had cancer? No? Fuck, you know that.
Hmm.
It's not the way that works. All right, so there are other applications to see how fucking fallacious that position is. I can tell at a minimum when you're being incongruent. Incongruent is when this bubble and this bubble and this bubble don't gel. It doesn't gel. Any questions?